God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan Napalm channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content on our march to launch. Today, guys, I want to talk a little bit. If you've been following Pantheon very closely and you've listened to the April roundtable, then you know that there are some really good nuggets of information in there. What I want to talk about today, though, is this revolutionary idea that they have regarding how to do open world raiding and named mobs, you know, the things that people like to camp, the things that in our brain that we're worried, I'm worried, everybody's worried that there'll be these mega guilds who will hold them down, hold this content down, and we the normal people won't get a chance to dig into it because it'll always be camped, etc., like we think of when we think of an open world system without instancing for our raids and things like that. So apparently, according to a clip from Chris Perkins during this roundtable, they had this idea, which he won't say what it is. They're still like, you know, running it through the ringer, making sure that there's no holes in the plot, that it's a true solution, that kind of thing. Before I talk a little bit about it, though, let me play that clip for you so you can hear it.
You know, you guys tout often that Pantheon is an open world, non-instance game. And you lead with that sometimes as like a real differentiator, because it is. I mean, it's not the common way anymore, and that's great. But what it does is it introduces a real question, a real concern, which is how do you plan on handling the fact that in an open world targets are contested, and what do you do to keep individual players, much less full guilds, from kind of blocking or owning essentially content where that might keep players from being able to to access it as freely as they would if it was in an instanced environment. And we have things like the closing door in Ashra that we saw yesterday that Ben spoke to a little bit, and people see that, and yeah, it's one piece, it's one thing that we want to try and see kind of what that ends up doing. But we also are very aware that alone, of course, is not a solution by any means. To get back to the creative brainstorming, it is probably in the top three, if not the number one most important question in my mind to answer, because if we can't solve that, then we've based our entire project around an aspect that will could potentially be our undoing if we don't have a way to actually solve for that. I think we have a way to solve for it, and it's I'm using an incredible amount of constraint right now not to say anything about it because it's really exciting. You talk about like the creative kind of chopping block / like storm center of having an idea, and something like this. I mean, if there's ever an idea that needs an unbelievable amount of vetting and turning it over in your mind and looking at every single possible facet you can think of, what are all of the edge cases, this idea has gone through it and is continuing to go through it. I'll just call it an idea for now. It does have a name. It has a shape. It has a design doc around it. I've been able to socialize it with a few key people on the team, with Brad as well, and just kind of let it fall out there and start being like chewed on. And so far, I think the vetting has worked, and there's not really a whole lot of edge cases that we're needing to solve for. So I really think we are very close now to being able to say we actually do have a plan to address this, and it's not piecemeal, it's not gimmicky, it's actually a very significant part of the game. And I can't wait till we can say more.
Wow. Now, if that didn't get you a little hyped, if that didn't get you kind of excited that, I mean, I knew they were going to try to tackle this problem. Most of us that's been following Pantheon closely, we know that they knew this was an issue. This is a big concern for people. We have no idea how they can pull it off. You know, the fans themselves are trying to come up with complicated systems they could do. And, you know, it's just a mess. You know, it's the number one complaint I would say I hear about Pantheon when I am talking about it here on YouTube is, oh, but the big guilds are they're gonna hold all the contested areas. You know, it's gonna be way too competitive. There's gonna be trolly people and people who just don't give a crap about the rest of the community. They don't care about their reputation. They're a big guild. All they need is their guild. They don't care about you and the little man and blah blah blah. And I agree. I mean, that could easily. I mean, that's easily what would happen, right? Naturally, from an open world game. So I'm not even disagreeing with that. I always knew that they would have some sort of plan. I never knew exactly what it would be. I think most of us just kind of assumed they're going to flood the content in such a manner that there would be enough things to do that if, you know, it would be hard for everything to be camped. I think that was kind of what we thought they might try to do, and that's really hard to do, you know, for launch of a game to have that much content just for the end game ready to go. You know, that's unheard of. That's not just kind of crazy. That's actually unheard of to have that much content ready to go at launch. It takes years and years and years and years and years and years to make that much quality content, at least. So now that we know that they actually have something, they thought of a solution. You know what I mean? They actually have thought of a solution that isn't gimmicky, like he said. It's not some cheap cop-out. It's new. It's something they thought of. They've given it a name. It is a system or a group of systems that they feel, at least at this point in their design, and they're pretty decently far along in their design philosophies, that they're running this one through the ringer. They're checking it for holes, they're balancing it out, they're attacking it from every angle, trying to figure out if this has loopholes, if this has an issue, if this will work or won't work. And Chris Perkins, who's a really smart guy, and also you gotta love him because he's the guy that usually kind of slips us. You know, I'm not going to say he slips us information he's not supposed to, but he alludes to it. You know what I mean? He kind of gives us a little drip of juice so we can, you know, lather it up and enjoy it. So whatever it is, and trust me, I've been literally racking my brain trying to figure out what is it, because the way it's worded there that he talks about it, it doesn't sound like what I was thinking they might do before. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, you got to figure they're putting a lot of effort, for example, into making the game to where the mobs are, you know, have disposition, and the dispositions change, and then they're talking about these events and how they're not static and how they're very dynamic, and they're very smart about realizing that a mob shouldn't just sit in one spot. It should wander. It shouldn't be Groundhog Day. Things should be a little bit different. Like, sure, you can learn the basics of a dungeon and know pretty much what's going on in there, but there should be some random things going on, you know, as far as like, you know, that boss he was hanging out here last time I was here. He stayed right here. This time he's not in this room. He's wandering around. All these kind of ideas to just kind of give the MMORPG genre this kind of fresh boost of mystery, you know, and exploration, and something where you don't just figure it out and that's the way it is. It's static and Groundhog Day, but it's actually different every time. So because we know that that's a key philosophy and something that keeps being brought up in all the different aspects of the game as they're designing it, I've always thought, you know, what if that's just not how the way we think of how raids work just isn't how they work anymore. You know, we don't just go to a specific spot on the map where it is, but is every raid going to be an event kind of thing where it has to be triggered, and the trigger points, the things that make it happen, can change and vary, and they can update them easily, and just on the fly have these systems in place that swap around, and by the time we figure it out into a month, the next month the patch is already ready to go for it to swap up again. So you can't really camp it, and you can't really get used to that, how you trigger it. You have to relearn it, or it has to just happen to you. And then you run into the issue, if they were to do something like that, of people being like, but then I may never get to raid. It's hard enough to get a raid group together. So I don't think that's it. I don't think that's quite it. I do feel like that I'm on the right path to what their brains are thinking. I could not be. This could be something totally revolutionary, and I think it will be. But I mean, just more beyond the way my brain waves are thinking right now is what I mean by that. But guys, what do you think? I mean, what could it be? What do these guys got up their sleeves? What could it possibly be that would handle this massive problem? Because let's be honest, this is a big deal, and I always felt like somehow they would at least get by. You know what I mean? Like, we would put up with I always thought we'd put up with a couple of nuances, just to have this non-instance world. That's the way I've always looked at it. Like, yeah, there's gonna be a couple of issues, quite a few issues even maybe, but we'll put up with it and we'll deal with them as they come, and we'll just keep fighting, and things can be okay. That's kind of what I thought. But now I'm starting to see that they're not okay with that, and that's a good thing. I'm glad they're not, because that means that we can move forward and we can evolve this, because whatever they do, other MMOs, if this game does well and Pantheon really succeeds on a decent level, and I believe that it will, then of course other MMOs are going to kind of steal from that idea, right? So things like this lead the genre forward. They open new pathways and for new ideas and new innovations, and people to build upon groundwork that was set, just like all technology, all genres, all video games have always worked. So guys, anyway, that's enough ranting from me. I hope you enjoyed the video today. And if you haven't checked out that roundtable, it is very good. There's a lot of information in there, a lot of content I can and will make out of the things they talk about. Because I love talking about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I couldn't do it enough. It's not possible that I would feel like I've said enough. But anyway, guys, in this one case, for one video, sometimes enough is enough. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think it means. Any ideas, anything crazy you've thought of that you think maybe might be tapping into the Visionary Realms way of thinking, that they maybe might give us a little insight into how they're going to do this, or what have you. When do you think we'll find out what this is? Do you think during Project Fairtail they might have a couple of like raid type or even just name mob types, just so they can kind of test it out? Because I do think that Project Fairtail is going to bring forth alpha, I'm hoping. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and until next time, God bless and happy gaming. Please listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. My friends all say it's a video buffet, you can even hit replay. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize, but please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.